That is, a damn fine cup of coffee. Continuing from my list for my top 10 favorite film directors of all time, today I will be discussing my top 10 favorite films from director David Lynch. Now only if we had some cherry pie to go with this damn fine cup of coffee. At number 10, Dune. Based on the legendary novel by Frank Herbert, Dune was David Lynch's first real stab at making a Hollywood studio movie, and despite the ideal pairing of such intellectually stimulating and awe-inspiring source material, it did not go over so well and was the only movie in which David Lynch did not get final cut. That being said, Dune is still an exciting sci-fi epic with unforgettable characters, costumes, makeup, and sets. Starring Kyle MacLachlan and Sting, Dune might not be Lynch's best film, but it's still a treasure trove for hardcore fans of the source material. At number 9, Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me. For those of you who are not in the know, Twin Peaks was a television series created by David Lynch that ran from 1990 through 1991 and revolved around the murder of a teenage girl named Laura Palmer. Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me is a 1992 film that follows her through the final days leading to her murder. Laura Palmer, on the surface level, is a bright young high school student who lives in the suburbs with her parents. However, in good old David Lynch fashion, Americana and suburbia sucks. Laura Palmer is a party animal who sleeps with boys and is addicted to cocaine. As the movie progresses, we witness the tragic downfall to the young Laura Palmer and her sudden murder. As much as I love the TV series, Fire Walk With Me is balls-to-the-wall Lynchian and has a fantastic soundtrack featuring the one and only Julie Cruz. At number 8, Wild at Heart. David Lynch and Nicolas Cage. What more could anyone ask for? Wild at Heart stars Nicolas Cage as Sailor, an ex-con just released from prison for manslaughter, who runs away with his sweetheart Lula, played by Laura Dern, to California. Lula's psychopathic mom handles the situation by hiring a professional hitman played by Harry Dean Stanton. This movie is absolutely weird, and yeah, I know, it's a David Lynch movie, but honestly, it feels like David Lynch's take on a 1980s John Hughes movie. During Sailor's and Lula's adventure, they run into Bobby Peru, played by Willem Dafoe, who talks Sailor into robbing a feed store. Again, David Lynch and Nicolas Cage. That right there should set you up for the movie. At number 7, Mulholland Drive. The movie starts by showing us a car crash, resulting in rendering the sole surviving woman amnesiac. The woman seeks shelter by lodging with an optimistic up-and-coming young actress, played by Naomi Watts. Investigating what caused the crash, the two women go sleuthing around Los Angeles, dragging them down further and further into the mysterious underbelly. In the meantime, a young director, played by Justin Theroux, is visited by a cowboy and is told to cast the upcoming actress in his next big project for his own good. Although I am not a big fan of the movie, it does contain one of the greatest scenes in all of cinematic history, which starts off with two guys sitting at a diner, and one of them goes into detail about a horrible nightmare which, more or less, seeps into reality. That's all I'm gonna say. At number 6, Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet begins in a pretty basic, picturesque American suburb. One day, the boy next door, Jeffrey, played by Kyle MacLachlan, comes across a peculiar object, a severed human ear covered in ants. This obviously raises questions, and the young boy takes it to the local police station. Despite their efforts, Jeffrey insists on doing some amateur sleuthing of his own, and even recruits his new girlfriend, Sandy, played by Laura Dern. Their lead is a depressed nightclub singer played by Isabella Rossellini. After sneaking into the singer's apartment, Jeffrey is immediately dragged into the bleak and violent underworld of the gangsters who are holding the son of the singer hostage. In the interim, the singer and Jeffrey develop a sadomasochistic relationship, which Jeffrey is a prime target for, the psychotic Dennis Hopper. Blue Velvet revolves around a recurring theme in all of Lynch's works, and that is the ugly face hidden behind classic Americana suburbia. At number 5, Lost Highway. Lost Highway first introduces us to a saxophonist, played by Bill Pullman, who lives with his wife. One day, the two receive a mysterious VHS tape that contains footage of the inside of their home. Then one day, the saxophonist finds his wife brutally murdered, and he is the lead suspect. While awaiting his sentence to be carried out on death row, guards come to discover that in place of the 40-something musician is a kid half that age named Pete. After being released, Pete moves back in with his parents, including his father, played by Gary Busey. Pete immediately returns to work as a car mechanic who is favored by a ruthless mobster, played by the legendary Robert Loggia. Pete is then smitten by the crime boss's gal, Alice, and that goes over about as well as one would expect. Things then get even worse as Pete falls even further down the rabbit hole of sheer what the fuckery. I would like to give a special shout out to Robert Blake's nightmarish portrayal as the Mystery Man. At number 4, The Straight Story. Walt Disney Pictures presents a David Lynch movie from 1999. Thought that sentence would never come out of my mouth. Richard Farnsworth steals the screen in his final film as 73-year-old Alvin Straight, a stubborn man who lives a simple life and lives on his own terms. His health is failing and he keeps this from his mentally disabled daughter, played by Sissy Spacek. Once he hears that his estranged brother Lyle, played by a favorite actor of mine, Harry Dean Stanton, has just suffered a heart attack, Alvin decides to travel from Iowa to Wisconsin to visit his brother, whom he hasn't seen or spoken to in 10 years. Without a driver's license, Alvin travels via tractor. At number 3, The Elephant Man. The Elephant Man tells a harrowing real-life tragic story of Joseph Carey Merrick, aka the Elephant Man, due to his deformity. He is discovered as part of a freak show by Dr. Frederick Treves, who rescues him and takes him to his hospital in hopes of not only finding a cure, but also to assimilate him into society. The Elephant Man was my official introduction to the world of David Lynch when I saw it at the age of 10. This movie is absolutely gut-wrenching, and David Lynch does a top-notch job of taking an otherwise unusual case study and fully explores the heart and soul of its lead character. It also puts a smile on my face knowing that Mel Brooks hired the young David Lynch to direct the movie since he was such a big fan of Eraserhead. Yes, that Mel Brooks, the Yiddish-speaking Jewish comedian who even went to bat to ensure David Lynch got total creative freedom. At number 2, Inland Empire. Inland Empire is to this date the last feature-length film directed by David Lynch, not to mention the longest with a runtime of 3 hours and 15 minutes. The film wasn't originally conceived as a feature film. Instead, Lynch would spontaneously conjure up an idea and would utilize DV cameras, creating a surreal, offbeat nightmare epic. The film stars frequent collaborator Laura Dern as a Hollywood actress who struggles with a persona as she takes on that of the character she is portraying. Throughout the film, we witness the mind of the lead character to gradually unravel, taking us through the labyrinthine corridors of her consciousness. The film also stars Justin Theroux, Harry Dean Stanton, and Jeremy Irons. Inland Empire is a must-see for any David Lynch fan. At number 1, Eraserhead. Eraserhead is a 1977 feature-length student film that launched David Lynch's career when he was already 31. Frequent collaborator Jack Nance stars as Henry, a timid and miserable individual straight out of any given Franz Kafka novel, who discovers one day that his girlfriend recently gave birth to an extremely premature alien-like baby. After the couple break up, Harry is left in his miserable, dank apartment to take care of the baby, who gradually takes over his sanity. Eraserhead is a monument of cinematic history, paving the road for future arthouse directors, and is cherished by many film lovers such as myself. The film includes a singing lady in the radiator, a bleeding roasted chicken, and a man in the planet, played by Lynch's then brother-in-law, Jack Fisk. Thank you so much for watching this, and let me know down below what your favorite David Lynch movie is. And unfortunately, from what I've heard, Dick Laurent is dead.